we used to go on car rides all the time down south, and we used to listen to music in the car, and everyone would fall asleep, so we'd turn it up really loud so that they would all wake up.
We used to make jelly and go to the park. We also used to race.
There was like a lot of arguing at home, and between me, my sister, my mum and my dad.
I was dead close with my dad. We'd do everything together, like I'd go to work with him. We'd go places, night drives, like go on drives like in the night. We'd like go on holiday a lot, like go out a lot, spend a lot of family time together.
We used to go on family holidays together and spend time with each other. I remember there was one holiday we went to the beach, and there was like this massive stick, and we took a photo on it, and it's still hung up on the wall.
I wasn't born when he went into prison, so I don't remember it much. But Mum told me all about it when I was old enough to understand. I was 2 years old the first time. He's going back into prison in May. He can get very angry.
I was around 10, 11-year-old when he first went in. I was a bit stressed, confused, a bit lost, didn't really know what was going on.
When he went in, I was about 11, 12-ish, kinda. He handed himself in, and I was in the car with my mum when we were dropping him and the two other men off. And I remember all the way there, he had hold of my hand in the back of he was in the front, I was in the back, and he had hold of my hand. And then when he got there, he was getting out and I just burst out crying. I remember him saying it was going to be alright, everything was going to be fine. And then gave him one last hug, and then we had to go.
I walked home from school, and I was getting ready, and then the police came into my house, and then my dad was stood in the corner with putting handcuffs on, and then I got put out the house by my mum, and we went up the street, and I was crying. We were all worried.
I'm not sad about it. He has problems and it's for the best. I'm not hopeful it will change.
We didn't really have much support until later on in the journey, but at the start we were kind of just left to deal with it by ourselves.
I was sad, confused, angry.
I don't like to think about it too much.
I was lost, I was sad. I didn't really know what to do with myself. Just kind of there. And then obviously we didn't really get to see anything what happened in court and stuff like that. So we didn't know really what was happening there. So we were just kind of going off what our mum was telling us. She made sure we knew what was going on because she felt if we didn't know them, we wouldn't be able to trust them. So she made sure we knew everything, so we weren't left confused or wondering. We always knew what was happening, when it was happening, and what was said.
It went online, and some of my family members commented on it. I made us upset because I didn't want everyone knowing about it as well. I was scared in case someone threatened us or did anything to hurt us.
Obviously everything got published, and all the newspapers and that came out, and social media, everything started on there, and then everything just kind of got over the top. Everybody kind of knew as soon as they saw him, as soon as they read it. It was everyone was kind of looking at you, knowing who you were and what happened. They knew all your business, they were in it all.
We couldn't just believe the news because it's always, you never know what's true on the news. But we knew our dad was telling the truth.
It annoyed me because they didn't know my dad like I did. They were kind of just going off what they read and what they saw and what other people thought. So we're just going off everything. They didn't really know the inside of it all.
The police weren't giving us any security. I was once woke up and we found a match on the doorstep, and I was really worried at the time and thought it could be a threat, but then my mum told us that it was nothing to worry about.
Sometimes you'd hear people talking about it on the streets, and sometimes people come up to you in school and ask you about it, or people who knew my dad and stuff would ask me about it, and I didn't know what to say.
I had to ask my mum about it all. She said what would happen and how it happened, and we were hoping for dad to be in there for a short amount of time. He got quite a long time.
That dragged on for so long. Obviously we were hoping for a lot shorter of a sentence than what he actually got, And like obviously they kept coming back telling us like he was going to get different sentencing times, and then I remember like getting in the car like on the way, I think we were on the way back from school, and we were like on the like our hill, and my mum was like, oh well, he's got so and so years in there. And then I remember everyone just sat there crying in the car because we thought he was going to get like a lot shorter of a sentence, but he didn't.
It was just a bit depressing. It's like, you know that your dad's not going to be there for so long and you can't really do anything about it, and you have no choice in the situation. I think the first couple visits I've like kind of forgotten because it's like tough to think about, so I kind of just block it out. But I remember I used to hug him, and that's when I used to cry rather than when I leave, because it was nice to have like the closeness to your family, and you don't get that often when he's in there. So obviously when you hug him, you've got it back for a bit, and it just makes me a bit upset sometimes.
It was huge, and the workers there were very nice. I remember having these friends that I used to see.
When he was in the first prison, which was a remand jail, so he didn't stay there for long, the visits were nicer. They felt more like intimate. You were closer to each other, and the walls were really bright. And when you're younger, it's nice to be surrounded by like the bright environment rather than the quieter, more dull ones. And we used to do family visits in the old prison, and we used to be able to bring our homework and stuff, and he could help us do it. And it was like he was actually out there helping us with our homework like he used to. But obviously now he's not out there and we're doing it in there, so having that type of visit, it can really, really help you feel more normal, more like a family again.
I remember going over and you had to like go through all these like metal stuff and that, and then we got over and we had to wait a bit before we came out, and obviously we were sat on the chairs so we could see him getting tapped down and that before he came out. And I remember everyone just running over and giving him a hug, and everybody was crying. And it got to the time we left, and then everyone just started crying again, and like nobody wanted to leave because we knew it wouldn't, like the visits would take ages again to be able to actually see him.
And in the prison he's in now, the visits just feel distanced, and you feel more separated from like your family, and the walls are quite dull. It's just quite grey, and it's not the nicest for like younger kids and stuff.
He calls me every week, but the line isn't good enough, so we spend a lot of conversations repeating ourselves, and it's really frustrating.
We're going on a visit next week actually, me and my sister, but obviously we have to spread out the visits right now because you're only allowed 3 visitors at a time, and my little sister takes up a seat now, so we have to like take turns on who can go.
I love the visits when I get to go. Like obviously it's contact visits now, so I get to hug him and like give him a kiss, and like happy, like there's a little bit of like happiness coming back, like oh I get to see my dad this week. It's just like you're looking forward to the day that's coming to the week.
The visit itself was like, it was fun, but it was like scary at the same time because of how big it was. It just feels like weird to know that like someone's in like a dark place like that.
I was mad. I still get mad. Like I never used to like get as mad as I do now. Like I used to be the most laid back person ever, and now I just get mad at like the slightest things because I started lashing out at everyone when my dad went in.
I don't think it affected me as much as it does now because I was younger and I didn't fully understand everything. I was more just confused and thinking, oh, my dad's not here right now. But obviously now I know the bigger picture, and I think it affects me a lot more.
Shouting at everybody, like pushing them away. Used to get in fights with my mum, fights with my sisters, arguing with people in school, the teachers, everything just kind of went downhill from there.
I have a lot of like mental health problems, including like anxiety and depression and stuff. It like makes me really sad to think about some of it, but more about my family and what they're going through rather than myself. And then obviously anxiety, it just affects me with big crowds and being in school and like going out places with loads of people around. It can really stress me out.
Like crying a lot, feeling alone and struggling to open up to people.
In my head I was just like, I don't care kind of state, like I don't care what happens next, I don't care who thinks bad of me after it all. It was kind of just was like, my head was all over.
I'm worried about my mum because she has to work a lot, and I feel like she overworks herself because she has to rely more on herself to get money and do all the financial stuff, because my dad obviously went to work a lot when he was out, so he earned like most of the money, and now my mum has to do it, and she's looking after 3 kids, so she gets overworked a lot and she's stressed, and that worries me.
Obviously my sister bottles everything up and she wouldn't tell nobody, so she'd always be there sad by herself and nobody knew. Like you couldn't see it because she always put a smile on. And my little sister, she kind of just shoved herself in a room, didn't talk to nobody, she was just like by herself. My mum had to take on the role of my mum and my dad put together, so like I was dead worried about my mum because obviously she wouldn't tell you how she felt because she was the mum, so she thought like we were kind of her priorities and she didn't prioritise herself and she needed to.
I started misbehaving a bit more and getting angry with teachers. They wouldn't really help or give any support when they said they would. They told us I'd get a social worker from the school, but then that never happened.
Obviously my other sisters, they kind of like had it on the depression kind of side, and I was kind of like mad all the time. Like there was not a day that I didn't wake up thinking, oh well, I don't care, I'm just going to do this, I'm just going to do that. There was never a day where I was like feeling sad. It was kind of just more anger put into it all. Like I was angry, I was just mad all the time.
We have a key worker in school now. They help us make a new timetable, and we also have Nepacs to support us.
I used to have a worker who would take us out and chat and play games. They were really helpful. I remember playing games with Snap and talking about the week. It was helping me cope.
We had social workers, and they told my mum that there was a company called Nepacs, and then they got us involved with them, and we started doing Friday Zoom calls every week.
My mum told us about Nepacs the day before my first trip with them. The first trip, it was at 11:30, we were going to the metro to go to the cinemas. It was a good trip, and I liked it after because it was near Christmas time and we got chocolate at the end.
Distraction, from the bad stuff, and to have someone to talk to other than family members and friends.
We only recently started getting support from Nepacs, and that was like a big help, especially for my sister, because now she knows that she has people she can contact if she needs to speak to them. And we go on trips and it brings us closer together, because we know that obviously when you're on those trips and you don't know people, you rely on the people you do know, and you rely on the closeness to each other that you've got, so it brings you closer.
We used to talk about how we'd feel, and we did this thing with our hands where we had to rate how our day was, and then we used to play Roblox sometimes as well.
We went to a residential. I was scared to go on the zip line, and we all went swimming.
Nepacs also helps us feel safe, and it's easier to open up because they work with other young children as well, and they'll understand it more.
It helps me meet people who've been through the same thing and not feel so alone in the whole situation, especially if they're younger kids, because I was in that place once, and you're like, it isn't just me.
It was just fun, and it made us feel good to know that there was other people with the same problems.
It feels like you have somebody there, you aren't just by yourself all the time. It gets your mind off it, taking you on the trips, and that it makes you feel that you're not alone, because everybody else that you're going on and with is in the same boat as you. It was nice because I knew they wouldn't judge me because my dad's in jail, because theirs is as well, so I knew I wasn't going to get judged by nobody because they were all the same as me kinda.
If another person was having the same problems as me, I'd tell them not to think about it as much, and if they're thinking about it, just listen to music to calm yourself down.
Don't ask yourself questions about why you feel a certain way. It's not your fault you feel like that. And if you feel like that, just accept it. There's not much you can change about it. Everyone feels differently about the situation.
I'd tell them to like not keep things to themselves, because then they'll end up alone and they'll explode with the feelings.
Don't take everything you've got for granted. When my dad was there, I thought, I'll always have my dad. And then when he left, everything just like became a struggle, because I kind of took him for granted, thinking he'd always be there, but he's not always going to be there.
Take it off your mind and like do something else. Draw and stuff. Listen to music and play games with your mums and stuff.
Don't look at somebody and just think they've got nothing going on. Just because they've got a stern face and just because they've got a smile and doesn't mean they're not going through things.
And don't lock yourself up alone by yourself, because it never ends well. You should speak to people, or if you're feeling a bit down, just say, do you want to come watch a movie with me or something? Just know you've got those people there for you.
Don't sit by yourself and dwell on it. Talk to people, get yourself out there. Be happy instead of being sad. Don't sit there by yourself and be upset. Be happy, go out with people, take your mind off it all.